Well, a very, very happy Friday morning. Welcome to the John Kentera Show on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. So we've got it all going for you on this Friday. Padres lost a heartbreaker on Wednesday night in extra innings of the New York Yankees. So they're sitting right now in good shape on this road trip. They're sitting at 4-2. They're going in to take on the Colorado Rockies starting tonight. 3-game series. They'll be back home to take on the Angels and the Seattle Mariners. And we're going to get you a little breakdown on the Colorado Rockies here. So we got a big show. Want to remind everyone, please follow us. Please subscribe to the channel. And also, please send your comments in. We always love going through the comments and answering questions on the air. So we'll do that here before too long. But we're very lucky today, folks. We've got a gentleman that has been covering the Colorado Rockies for 26 years. And I'll tell you, he's a tremendous gentleman. He's one of these guys that when you go to the ballpark and Colorado's in town, you look forward to seeing him. He's always upbeat, no matter what he's doing, what his personal life is, or what's going on with the ball club. Always a breath of fresh air, and we're very happy to track him down. I know he had a very, very long day yesterday at Coors Field, but a man that's been covering the Rockies for 26 years. Our good buddy Thomas Harding from MLB.com joins us on this Friday morning, and boy, I hope you don't have any bruises from that ball game yesterday, Thomas. That was a tough one yesterday.
Tough one, I'll have to say. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't throw any pitches. I didn't strike out. I didn't ground out. I didn't commit any errors. So, yeah, but it was a long day, and certainly a long day for the Rockies and their fans.
Yeah, for the fans that didn't see the score, it was a doubleheader yesterday against a very good Detroit team. AJ Hinch got a good ball club this year. They won the first game 10-2 over the Rockies at Coors Field and came back and won the nightcap 11-1. The ball club's sitting at 6-31 right now. How's the skipper holding up?
I'll tell you what, it's tough for everybody here. I know that in talking to Bud Black a few years ago, when they knew they were going to have to rebuild, he said he wanted to be a part of the solution. But the solution is really coming slowly, or I guess it's gone backwards, actually. 2 100-loss seasons, and then this season, which it's tied with the Orioles for the worst in the modern era. And I find myself writing about teams like the Louisville Colonels and the Kansas City Cowboys before 1900 to kind of put into perspective just how bad the Rockies start is this year.
Well, let me ask you this, and you know my relationship with Buddy, and you've got a great relationship with him. And I think for all of us guys that have known him and love him, he's a great baseball man. He's always trying to turn the page and move on to the next day. One or two things here. Why does he want to continue to stay there and get beat up? And why hasn't ownership tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey, buddy, we need to get a fresh voice in here? Because he's been there since 2017. First 2 years, they actually got to the playoffs under him. But, we saw yesterday what happened with Derek Shelton in Pittsburgh. I mean, is Buddy Black there for the duration, at least for this year?
It's hard to tell because with this group, they're very slow to make changes, as you've seen over the years. So I don't know. I mean, there weren't any rumblings even after such a horrible day yesterday, and also Kyle Freeland coming out speaking that a lot of things are going wrong here. There are no rumblings about it. Dick Monfort has not spoken to the media in recent weeks, so that also is part of it, because Dick Monfort really runs that show. He makes a lot of decisions when it comes to the personnel, the type of organization that they have, even when it comes down to the players. So we're not hearing that. For Bud Black, I think that, as I said before, he wants to be a part of the solution. I mean, is there a future for him, whether it's here or elsewhere, in a front office? I really believe that may be his route to correcting things or just continuing his baseball career if it's not here in Denver.
It's interesting. I remember one night when he was managing the Padres, and I've known Buddy since he pitched at San Diego State. And we're
Oh,
sitting in
wow.
the dugout. I was doing the pregame show down on the field, and we normally get off at about 6:50. In those days, they were playing at 7:05 a few years back. Now they moved to 7:10. And I'd go sit in the dugout with him, just before it exchanged lineup cards. And I said, buddy, you're about the smartest guy I've ever met in baseball. And what I meant by that, Thomas, I mean, there's guys that know X's and O's. A lot of guys, Clint Hurdle, who's now on Buddy's staff. I mean, those are great baseball guys. And they're real baseball guys, old school baseball guys. But I said to Buddy, I go, you're the only guy I've ever met in baseball that could be the president of the ball club or the general manager or the manager. I mean, he knows how to connect with people.
I agree with that. I mean, before he came here, he was in the front office of the Angels. He did some things scouting wise and also front office wise at the end of his career with the Cleveland Indians back then on a team that went to the World Series. I mean, this is a guy who has all kind of different experience, including the analytics, which is something that people talk about a lot here because the Rockies are considered very weak in that department. Anything to do with baseball, whether it's minor league, major league, front office, or quantitative analysis, I guess. Bud Black has some experience in it.
Thomas, talk a little bit about what happened yesterday after the game. I only saw a snippet of the veteran left-hander, a kid that grew up in the Colorado area, Kyle Freeland, who's a real battler out on the mound, a great competitor. And boy, it was tough for him stepping to that mic yesterday after a rough day on the mound.
Yeah, a lot of frustration because, first of all, he is struggling. He's having a hard time getting the pitches where he wants to get them. That happens a lot here. You go through those stages. It happened last year at the start of the year for him. Then he smoothed it all out. But a lot of errors behind him, just a team that looked like it had no chance whatsoever. And Kyle Freeland wears that on his sleeve. I mean, at the end of the press conference, you could hear his voice breaking when he's asking the fans to continue riding with the team. But he did say that when you look around at some of the teams that have been bad in the past, I'll include the Padres in that. You look at the Kansas City Royals who went to the playoffs, and also the Detroit Tigers who went through such a bad period. And they look so good right now. And Kyle Freeland says, what they're doing is right and what we're doing is wrong. And that couldn't be more stark.
You know, it was interesting because over the last several years, they've gone to the post with Kyle Freeland, Herman Marquez, Antonio Zenzatella. And, you know, I'm looking at Freeland's numbers after yesterday, 0-5 and a 6.41 ERA. Zenzatella, 1-5 and a 5.5 ERA. And Herman Marquez, I know coming off an injury, 0-7 right now with a 9.90 ERA. And these are three guys that have been pretty good major league pitchers at a point in time.
That's right. They broke in with the Rockies in 2017 and 2018, got to the playoffs with them. And what the Rockies wanted to do was sign them and keep them long-term because they do have this problem. Nobody wants to pitch at Coors Field. It's been over the past 15, 20 years, you can count on one hand, maybe a couple fingers on the next hand, the number of free agents that really had a choice that signed here to be starting pitchers. So the Rockies thought, hey, we've got some guys that we grew. Let's hold on to them. Maybe in the future, what they do is if a young guy breaks through and he pitches pretty well, you get something for him before years in Denver start to erode his talents. I mean, there are certain things that happen here. The fastball at the top of the zone, that erodes pretty quickly. The mistakes that you make with the breaking ball, you can throw a breaking ball, you can change speeds, but the mistakes really get hit. And sometimes that weighs on pitchers. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe the best way to do it is to bring in young pitchers. And when they're doing well, you go ahead and trade them then and end up maybe getting some pitching back that's still young, guys that haven't learned to do it elsewhere and then have to relearn in Colorado.
What's the payroll this year?
Oh gosh, payroll. It's funny because when I think about the payroll, you see those veteran pitchers, and then you see the Chris Bryant amount, which really skews the payroll. After that, it's pretty minimal, and I think that's also part of the problem here. You had a lot of young guys breaking in, and they're giving them all chances, and they're living with a lot of up and down from young players. I do think that you need to sign a few veteran types. They did sign Thairo Estrada to fit in the middle of the infield, and he got hurt in spring training. Also, and I think that's part of the deal here too, is that there have been some injuries, but they need to spend a little bit more around the edges of that roster. And if they do, I think they could be better. I mean, I hate to keep bringing up the Tigers because I watched them yesterday, but they've got essentially 13 position players that are starters, and they mix and match all the time. There's not this big drop off between their top guys and the next group of guys. And I think that's what we're seeing with the Rockies, is that there just isn't enough depth of talent on that roster right now.
I got to ask you about Chris Bryant, and I don't want to beat him up. I covered him when he was at USD. I had him on my radio show. Always was very congenial. But I wondered, even when they signed him back in 2022, they had signed him to a 7-year, $182 million contract. I go, boy, this is kind of a strange sign. It was a late signing that year, if I recall.
Right.
And it was like, why did they sign Chris Bryant? Because his numbers, I know that combo year where he was with the Cubs, got traded to the Giants, he hit 25 home runs, but you could tell he was starting to decline a little bit. And he's had all kinds of injuries. Now he's on the IL again, and I know he's having a back procedure, but he's only played in 170 games in the first 3+ years. He's got a WAR of minus 1.6, and they've got him under contract through 2028. I mean, this has become a real albatross.
Yeah, it's the gift that keeps on taking. That contract is. With Chris Bryant, I know I've talked to him a number of times. A very frustrated man because he believes that he can be a good major league player. The reason the Rockies did it, they thought that there were a lot of good young players coming behind him, and they needed a mainstay in the lineup. Now let's go back and look at that. Okay, you're coming out of the pandemic. You're coming off of the lockout. I know that they wanted to create some excitement. They were not only trying to draw fans, but they had built an area near the ballpark, kind of a ballpark village type thing, McGregor Square there. So they were trying to get some enthusiasm about the ball club. But bringing in Chris Bryant and with a big name, as you said, there were some indications that he wasn't as healthy as he had been, and he hasn't been healthy at all here.
You know, I love Coors Field. I love that downtown area. There's a lot of similarities actually with Petco Park and Coors Field. And I know not a lot of our viewers have maybe been to Coors Field, but I've been there a number of times over the years. It's really a cool area. And for the most part, considering the team, especially, has been really bad the last several years, the fans have been pretty supportive. What are they saying now?
Well, they're very angry because of the support that they're giving to a product that isn't very good. Now, a couple of things that help prop up the attendance. The Rockies are very good at selling to other teams' fans. I mean, yesterday I thought I was at Comerica Park. There was so much noise for the Tigers and so little for the Rockies, actually. So they do a good job of those things. They do a good job of a lot of business type things, but putting the product on the field, they have massively failed in recent years.
I mean, does the owner, Dick Monfort, he was certainly critical of the Padres in the late Peter Seidler when he was spending a lot of money and saying, well, they can't sustain it and they're doing this and doing that, and very critical of the Padres. But man, he got to put a better product out on the field, at least try. I mean, he really didn't get Buddy any help this year.
Yeah, I'll tell you the statement. I remember that he disagreed with what the Padres were doing, but let's go back and look at it. Okay, the regional sports contracts all dried up at about the same time. The Padres, the Rockies, and the Diamondbacks all at about the same time. What did the Diamondbacks and the Padres do? They invested in their teams because if you're going to make up for a loss of television money, maybe you make up for it with fans coming to your games, winning ball games. So they invested. The Rockies did not. They kind of pulled in, and usually when you announce that you're going to have a youth movement, except for Chris Bryant, when you announce you're going to have a youth movement, that means you're not spending a lot of money on your major league roster. Well, I guess it's proven that the late Peter Seidler had the right idea there. He brought in players, he traded prospects, and also advanced his major league team, and he used just the right prospects on his team instead of every prospect that has a chance going to the major leagues. He used the right ones, and the other ones he traded to improve the roster. So, yes, Dick Monfort was critical of him, but I think history has shown that not only have the Padres won, and the Diamondbacks also, but they're drawing fans, and the Rockies are having a decline. Even though, yeah, it's more than you would expect for this type of record, the Rockies have declined attendance-wise.
You know, we talked a lot about Buddy, but Buddy's been really the face of the franchise. He's been the guy at the top step of the dugout. But Bill Schmidt, who I know a little bit, I actually coached against him back in the early 80s when he was an
Wow.
assistant at Santa Ana Community College, and I was a young junior college assistant baseball coach. And He's a general manager, kind of inherited that position, a good background in scouting and, going out and trying to find ball players. And it seems like him and Buddy right now are probably attached at the hip. And, what's the future for this organization right now? What's their minor leagues look like? How have their draft picks come along? Because right now, I think everybody in baseball kind of feels sorry for the Colorado Rockies in this franchise.
Well, it's strange because if you look at the roster right now, you have Ezekiel Tovar, who's injured, and I think that has a little bit to do with the historically bad start. Brenton Doyle in center field. There are a few young players that look like they're people to build around. If they had more around them, I think this would look like a better team. It does seem that they've struggled a bit trying to fill in behind. What happened, they had a spate of Tommy John surgeries. I think they drafted a number of pitchers in the first 2 rounds. 2 of them had to retire before they got to Double-A. One, Riley Pint, is bouncing around the minor leagues with the Cleveland Guardians. That hurt. Some of the also position players, Zach Veen, who debuted this year, he's been hurt a lot of his career. Same with Benny Montgomery, another number 1 draft pick. So when you draft and develop, a lot of things happen between the minors and the majors. There is a group of pitchers that seem to be coming along right now, but they're still a couple of years away, frankly. Chase Dollander, who's in the starting rotation right now, he's taking his lumps. I think he will be good. But when those other pitchers get here, are they going to take their lumps trying to integrate into the major leagues in Colorado? Probably. So they need more, even though there are some things coming along. They need more.
Thomas, I'm really anxious to see Mickey Moniak got picked up. And I know Mickey, I know his grandfather, I know his dad. I've been watching him since he was a little kid play out here. I was actually at their home the day he got drafted number 1 by the Philadelphia Phillies. And, he got to the Phillies probably a little bit early, and they expected him to walk on water, and it didn't work. And they moved him to the Angels 2 years ago under Phil Nevin. He performed very well last year. He was kind of in and out of the lineup with Ron Washington, and I know he's in Colorado now, and I know he's just hitting a little over 200. But I'm thinking that guy there, if he got consistent playing time, I really want to see what he can become, because I do think he's got good skills.
That was one of the reasons the Rockies picked him up. And there are times when you see, okay, this is why he was the number 1 overall draft pick. Then he chases pitches and strikes out, and then you say, okay, this is why he hasn't quite developed. If you're the Rockies, you do look for diamonds in the rough like that. But like I say, the problem is when you have young guys and diamonds in the rough, that's not a high enough talent level. But can Mickey Moniak end up a solid major league player here and maybe have some good years? It seems like the talent is there, and he is getting some chances to play. Will he get caught up in this youth movement where maybe if a prospect comes up, they play him in front of Moniak? I don't think they should, because Moniak, he's only 26 years old, and he has a lot of the tools that you expect of a young player. Maybe he's one of those guys that hey, we like our prospects, but we like this guy better.
Okay, I got to ask you this question. The Rockies, and we were talking off the air about our old buddy Tracy Ringlesby, who was there from, I think he was standing there the day they got announced that they were going to be a big league ball club back in '93. This organization, and you see it from a little bit different lens than the guys that are down in the foxhole. If somebody walked into the press box and tapped you on the shoulder and said, Thomas, we want you to take over this organization, what are some of the things that you think need to be put in place to give this organization an opportunity to, be competitive again?
Number 1, I would expand the infrastructure, all those boring things. But if you look at the Padres, look at some of the trades they've made where they've plucked guys out of other organizations before they got to the major leagues. I want to be the best at that. I want to be the best at either drafting and developing or finding guys in other organizations. You don't have to do it one way. So what I would do, I would expand pretty much everything. It has a very small analytics staff, a small scouting staff. Everything is small, small, small. I do know that general manager Jeff Bridich before Bill Schmidt got there, and also Bill Schmidt early on, they talked about expanding the organization. It hasn't happened. I don't take that job until I know that's going to happen. I think that would be one of the biggest things. The next thing would be I would sign free agents, but I wouldn't sign a free agent to their last contract. If you look at some of the free agents they've signed in recent years, Ian Desmond, who did pretty well for them on the playoff teams, actually, Daniel Murphy, Chris Bryant, it's their last contract. I would rather sign a guy in the middle of his career to a shorter contract and you're not dealing with injuries or the wear and tear of a guy, and let him also play for his next contract. If it's here, fine. If it's not, sign the next guy who's building his career. So that's the way I would control the payroll, but improve the talent level. So those are two things I'd do immediately.
Well, I certainly hope the press box food at Coors Field is good. At least while you have a good taste in your mouth.
Well, let's say that years ago, it was one of the best ever. I don't know if you've ever been to Coors, but at one time, they had chefs that worked with us. You could order the things you wanted, and they were very friendly. They actually talked to you. And now it's like most ballparks. Let's face it, the chefs do a good job, but you're fed by heat lamps, as I usually say. So the food is okay. Let's say that. We'll say it's okay.
Hey, last thing I got for you.
Yeah.
And I know Buddy is big about, hey, we got to turn the page. You know, he'll be out there catching balls at first base, and, you know, he'll be upbeat and have a little bounce in his step each and every day. How about when you go down and talk to the ball players? How are they to deal with right now? Or guys, and everybody's different. You know, some guys will talk and they'll be, you know, they can turn the page. Other guys, they're gruff and they don't want to talk to anybody. They see you coming, they go a different direction, or they go hide in the clubhouse. What's it been like trying to go down and talk to these guys who you've built good relationships with?
It's interesting because over my time covering the Rockies, I've been very lucky. And I go all the way back to the beginning when I got here around 2000, where Todd Helton was emerging as a star player. And one of the things he told younger players is like, be there for the media and be honest. Okay. Don't hide. And basically what he said was, I'm there and I talk to them. If I can talk to them, you can too. And that spirit has kind of continued there. Now, what I'm noticing is you have a lot of young guys who are struggling just to keep their head above water. And when that happens, they're concerned about their own games. A few of the veterans, you can see it in them that it kind of burns them. They're like, wait a second, we're here to win. We're not here for you to get better or for you to develop like you did in the minors. Yes, you want to do that, but the goal has to be winning. So I think there is a little bit of tension there. There's not enough of that tension. That's why you need more veteran frontline players, to where if you have prospects come up, it's instead of, hey, you're the prospect, it's your turn, you're the prospect, you have to earn this and you have to beat this veteran out.
Yeah, I do have to ask one more question because I'd kick myself if I let you go and didn't ask about Clint Hurdle. I'm a big Clint Hurdle fan. I remember when he was managing the Rockies and he used to bring his ball club in. And they were a bunch of young guys. He was teaching them how to play at the big league level. And I would watch him as coaches, who I think he was pretty hard on, actually. He expected a lot out of his coaches every day. It just wasn't a bunch of his buddies to, you know, throw a uniform on and sit in the dugout with him. I developed a nice relationship with him. I think he's a great baseball man. I think baseball's better when Clint Hurdle's in a uniform, even though I don't think he really wanted to come back and put a uniform on again. He was happy with his life and doing all the things he's doing. But now he takes over for Bam Bam Eulens a few weeks ago as the hitting coach. You know, what's he up to right now?
Well, first of all, I'm going to dispute one thing, but he wanted to get back into a uniform. I mean, he's one of those guys where, yeah, he's a book writer, he's a podcaster, he's a public speaker, but he's good at those for a baseball guy. I mean, I could imagine some of the talks where they say, Clint, we may want you to come back as the hitting coach, and him lighting up about that. I have been privy to some of the sessions that he's had with players, just standing on the field. And the thing about it is, Clint's voice is so deep that I could be almost 90 feet away and hear everything that he says. And also just kind of walking through the clubhouse where he's having meetings with hitters, the enthusiasm is there. One of the reasons why he's there as the hitting coach now is when he came back to the organization, he worked with the guys as minor leaguers. He traveled around to the various spots and he talked to them. So he does know the guys. He has a little bit of knowledge of them. Now he's getting to know them at the big league level. And it's still a get to know you period. He's still evaluating what really needs to happen with these guys. and can they get there? He's done it before with young players, so we'll see what happens with this, or who knows what happens if there are major staff changes, what Clint's role will be. But it looks like he has a role. The other guy, if I can talk about, when Clint was traveling around the minors, Todd Helton also joined them. It would be nice to have his voice at the major league level, but what he prefers to do is work with the guys before they get here. So maybe that could work out where Clint is working with them in the majors, but the guys who are still struggling to try to get here, Todd could be somewhere in that major league, minor league space there to remind guys, hey, you're coming to the major leagues, but this is what a major league player does. Or when a guy goes down, this is what you need to do to be a real major league player.
Well, I can tell you this. Clint Hurdle told me, he goes, "Yeah, I'm very happy with my life. I don't plan on ever getting back into a uniform. But man,
he told me the same.
Shoulder, it's tough, and they got that uniform waiting for you in a cubicle, isn't it?"
Yes, it is tough. Like I say, I mean, a guy like Clint Hurdle, I think that he just feels good in a uniform. I mean, yes, he's at a stage of his life where he certainly enjoyed, I think, all the family time and everything else with it, but then he put the uniform back on, and that's who he is.
I get his little motivational and Bible speeches every morning in my email.
That's right. Yes. I mean, and he's still doing that. So I guess he's doing two jobs right now. And, he has a book out there. He's a busy man for a guy who supposedly retired from the sport.
Yeah, he shows up on my X feed every day with some bullets of wisdom.
Yes.
Hey, Thomas, thank you so much. I know it was a long day yesterday. I know you got to head out there. Hey, last thing for our Padre fans here. What's the weather going to be like this weekend?
It's actually going to be wonderful. That's been one of the strange things about this Rocky season. In fact, I was talking to a couple of veteran players, and they're like, is the weather here always bad? Because every time they've come back from the road, there's been a bad weather event. I mean, there was a rain out, there was snow in the mountains, and all these things. There even the possibility of hail and snow here. But the weather then yesterday turned. It was wonderful, and it will be wonderful this weekend. And I don't think we're going to get our May snowstorm, although we almost did. So weather's nice for the Padres here in town, and I'm sure there will be a lot of Padres fans at Coors Field.
Well, hey, as always, great to catch up with you. It's been a while now that I got this podcast. We'll do this more often, but thanks so much for the time. And, I always have a great deal of respect for you.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. And I look forward to my next trip to San Diego also.
Hey, be well, my friend.
Thanks.
There you go. One of the great guys that covers Major League Baseball, giving us a real good insight on Buddy Black's Colorado Rockies, Mickey Moniak. Oh man, I hope Mickey can get it done. I got a lot of high hopes for Mickey Moniak. And really 2 years ago when Phil Nevin was running the show up there with the Angels, he put together a really, really nice year. Last year, he just didn't get that consistent playing time. And I guess you could say, well, yeah, when you're in there, you got to earn it. But it's tough not being a real established major league player. We've talked about that's why you got to always have veterans coming off the bench. And a guy like Moniak really trying to get his feet on the ground as and a secure major league player, and hopefully he'll get that opportunity with the Colorado Rockies. But the Rockies 6-31. Can you imagine if the Padres were 6-31? People would be losing their mind, absolutely lose their mind. But really appreciate Thomas Harding joining us. Okay, the game the other night, Yankee Stadium. That was a hell of a baseball game. The only thing that I disliked about the game, there were a couple of things. Number one, the Padres couldn't hold two different leads. I know the one lead was 1-0, and then Bellinger, with one out in the seventh, hit that home run off of Dylan Cease, who by far had his best outing of the year. I mean, he was in complete command. And Bellinger hits that home run to tie it up. And then Padres get a 3-1 lead. Once again, Jackson Merrill, RBI single after homering early to get the Padres up 1-0. Bogarts came up, sac fly, Padres up 3-1. And then Jason Adam gives up a bomb to our old buddy Trent Grisham, who's already got 10 home runs. Can you believe that? Trent Grisham just on fire. He's sitting close to 300 right now with the Yankees. But then they lose it in the 10th inning. But the thing that bothers me, and I'm not going to be one of these guys. Everybody was panicking the other night. Oh, my God, the bullpen. Yeah, I know they gave up 10 runs in the middle game of the series, the bullpen. But they still have given up the least amount of runs of any relief staff in baseball. And Jason Adams been worked a lot, and he gave it up the other night. Estrada ended up getting the loss, but again, that's an unearned run. He had to come in and be the sacrificial lamb in that 10th inning, and they get beat on a sacrifice fly 4-3. But a couple of things. Aside from giving up the lead 2 different times, I hate the Manford man or the ghost runner. I that was such a good baseball game the other night. I didn't want it to end. And, I don't care about bullpens. I really don't. I'm an old school baseball guy. I want to see the game played and played out the right way. In the playoffs, we play baseball. In the regular season, we play man for man baseball. I mean, at least let's make that rule to where they put the runner on second base. Let's do it like in the 12th inning. Let's play the 10th and 11th, and if it's still tied, let's go to the 12th inning. Okay, everybody for the first 150 years had to deal with, pitching, and I know guys don't go as deep now, and you can't use them, or they're fragile, like a cheap toy you bought at Kmart in the old days, blue light special. But I want to see baseball. That was a great game the other night, and it kind of, I don't know, it's kind of, not because the Padres lost either. I don't like it. I just don't like it, period. I could be watching the Cubs play the White Sox. And by the way, we found out yesterday after they named the new Pope that the Pope's actually a Chicago White Sox fan. I know people have been on the edge of their seat waiting for that. But I hate that. I hate that rule. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But nonetheless, Padres are playing great baseball. They're a game back of the Dodgers. Dodgers got beat last night. But I want to talk about Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease went out there the other night and pitched like he's capable of. He had everything working. Fastball, slider, curveball, change. He had it all. Did a hell of a job the other night. And then he gets a cramp. Now, here's the other deal. And I'm not going to sit here and belabor, because there's a lot of money invested in these players. And not that it would have made the difference one way or the other. But Dylan Cease gives up the home run, and he's out there pitching, doing a good job. He throws a pitch, and all of a sudden he gets a hand cramp or a forearm cramp. I don't know if it was a forearm or a hand. They said hand cramp. That's fine. Mike Schilt comes out. Ruben Niebla comes out. The training staff comes out. That's great. You got to check on your big right-hander. No problem with that. And you could tell Cease wanted to stay in the game. He didn't want to come out of the game. But they took him out of the game. Now, here's what I'm saying. And like I said, it didn't matter one way or the other. He was about done anyways. But he wanted to stay in the game. Why didn't he throw like 1 or 2 pitches? Maybe not even hard. Just throw and see if that cramp goes away. But they always err on the side of caution. Now, if it was an arm, a shoulder, a knee, and I get it. But I thought maybe he could throw a couple of warm-ups just to see if that hand cramp would subside. But they took him out of the game. And that's the way most organizations do. I'm not just picking on the Padres. Most organizations now, you come out, they used to let you work through things. They don't do that anymore. You're done. Go see the trainer. And Cease went in the dugout and just sat there and watched the game. It was like he was fine. So nonetheless. Okay, Jackson Merrill. Guy's amazing. And people now are starting to compare him to Freddie Freeman. And you know what? At 22 years of age, this kid's off to an unbelievable start. Somebody asked me yesterday, I was on with Fletch and Sammy on 760 yesterday at 1:30. And they asked me about Jackson Merrill, being a leader on this ball club. I don't know if he's a leader at 22 years of age, but I know this, the veterans respect him. And if the veterans respect you, then you're a leader on the team. You're not going to be a vocal leader, I don't think, but you're going to be a leader, and other guys that are coming up from the minor leagues are going to respect you. And I respect Jackson Merrill for a lot of, number one, the kid came in, works hard, keeps his mouth shut, and continues to grind. But I also go back to spring training and how he handled himself after he'd be taken out of ball games. And I know some of the guys that were playing after him in the big league games are guys that he came up in the minor leagues with, and he was there to support them. I hope he always does that. I hope he does that when he's 30 years of age or 31 and playing for the Padres. I hope he stays in the dugout and doesn't, go to the locker room, take a shower, and go hit golf balls. I hope he stays in the dugout and imparts all the knowledge he's gaining right now from guys like Manny and Bogarts and the veterans on this ball club, of Jason Hayward. But Merrill the other night, man, that home run he hit off of Max Fried, that sweeper, he hit that thing a country mile. Holy Toledo. And then he comes up in that critical situation and drives in that go-ahead run. Beautiful swing. Hit it out there to left center field. He looks great. Doesn't look like he's missed a beat coming off the IL. Okay. Jake Cronenworth going to be back tonight. And I went back and I looked at Jake's numbers. And by the way, yesterday, it kind of went under the radar. It'll be more announced today. But Oscar Gonzalez being optioned back to El Paso, so that tells you they're making the move for Cronenworth. Cronenworth, he played one game in Arizona in the Rookie League, went 1 for 3 with a strikeout. And then he played 2 games this week in AAA. Tuesday night, he went 1 for 2, 3 walks, a 2-run homer, a strikeout. And then Wednesday night, he was the designated hitter. He went 1 for 2, a walk, a run scored, and a strikeout. So Jake Cronenworth should be back in the Padres lineup tonight. Oscar Gonzalez going down to AAA. Okay, let's get to some questions today on Coach's Mailbag. Whether the questions from last show or people writing in right now, let's hear from you on this big Friday. And again, thanks to Thomas Harding from MLB.com for joining us today. JB, I don't know, but I'd rather see DeVries at short than flipping Bogarts with his over $250 million contract. I see no fire with Bogarts. Well, you know what? We're going to do the Leo DeVries update on Monday, but I promised you earlier in the week that I would check on his defensive numbers. He's got some work to do. He's already made 9 errors down in high A ball. His fielding percentage as of last night was .904. Not good. Bogarts is playing pretty good ball. Not everybody comes out with their hair on fire. Bogarts is playing hard. He's working very diligently. Had some big hits for the Padres in the last week. Bogarts is not a problem right now. Now, hitting in that number 4 spot, sometimes it's feast or famine. And maybe at some point in time, now you got Merrill back, you move Bogarts down in the order of spot, maybe you end up moving him to 6 at some point in time. But he's swinging the bat much better. And I think he's done a good job at shortstop. I don't think there's one time where you could say, oh, man, you're not really doing a good job at shortstop. Hey, I don't expect guys at shortstop to make Hall of Fame plays every night. I want the routine play made. I want that high hopper over the mound, come in, make a quick throw, get the guy out at first. I want that ground ball in front of you handled flawlessly. Yeah, you're going to go in the hole. You're not going to field it sometimes, or you're going to field it. You're not going to be able to make a good throw. I need guys that can make the routine play. The routine play is the one that, and you botch it, that extends innings. You're not going to always make that diving play. In fact, most of the time when you dive, the chances of getting a good speedy runner nil. Why dive when it's going to be a base hit and you could injure yourself like Bogarts did a year ago at second base? Now, I got no problem right now with Bogarts. I'd like to see him hit for a better average, maybe a little more power here and there, but I think it's still early. He could still get it going. He'll get on a hot streak at some point in time. But I'd rather it be like starting this weekend in Colorado. Colorado's a good place to get on track offensively. But JB, we'll see where it goes. Thank you very much for that question. Mariah, what Padres would you most like to see make the All-Star team this season? Wow, Mariah, I think between the Dodgers and the Padres, they're gonna dominate the All-Star game. Right now, I don't know if Arise will make it, even though I love Arise, and I want Padres to re-sign him because of his power numbers. But, I see Manny making it. I see Fernando making it. I think Merrill will make it. And then you've got probably Michael King. Nick Pavetta's got to be in the conversation right now. And Robert Suarez. I mean, there's 6 guys right there that could make it for the Padres. And you know what? All those guys to this point are very deserving. So we'll see where it goes. But I think you could have 6. Dodgers are going to have a bushel basket. I mean, Freeman's going to make it. Betts will make it. Will Smith will probably make it. Teoscar Hernandez will probably make it. Pitching staff-wise, Yamamoto will probably make it. Who knows? Maybe we'll outdistance the Dodgers. Maybe we'll have 6 and they'll have 5. Dodgers got beat last night. Yamamoto gave up a grand slam home run. He gave up 2 homers last night. But the Dodgers, man, I watched them the other day against Miami, and it was a no score in the game late. I think it was a sixth or seventh inning. Man, they just put like 7 runs on the board. They can strike in a hurry. But no, I think we could have right now with everything the way things are going. I think we could have 6 guys go to the All-Star game. That'd be really cool. Love it when Padres are there. I remember I used to just wait for my one Padre all those years, whether it was Chris Cannizzaro in '69, who never got in the All-Star game that year, to Cito Gaston, to Randy Jones, to Johnny Grubb, to Nate Colbert. We always got our one guy back in the '69 season in the early '70s, and I'd always wait until our guy came in. I was still waiting for Chris Cannizzaro. I remember talking with Chris many years ago. Chris has passed on a few years ago, but I remember talking to him and told him how pissed I was that he didn't get in that All-Star game, and he goes, so was I. But Mariah, thank you very much for that question. Okay, what else we got? More in MLB. Will the Padres sweep the Rockies and give them 3 more losses to their 31 already, or could you see Colorado getting a win in the series? Hey, every game you got to go play. Colorado, they're still playing hard. It's not like they're not playing hard. And they got, when we look at the pitching staff here in a minute, they got some guys that can go out there and shut you down, even though the 2 veterans have had a rough go. They got a young guy, Blaylock, going on Saturday night. But we'll get to that in a minute. But, hey, weird things happen at Coors Field. Great ballpark, though. Love that ballpark. I'd love to play in that ballpark. But I appreciate that question very much. Okay, what else we got? We got some more questions today. Bring them in. Rich McGuire, Tony Gwynn would have been 65 today. Happy birthday to Mr. Padre. It's a very good call, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Anytime we talk about Tony, it brings back incredible memories. And you know what's really funny? I was very fortunate to be with the lady that I was dating at the time, now my wife of almost 42 years. We happened to be at the game the night Tony broke in, and we didn't know Tony was even playing until John DeMott, the PA announcer, announced that this kid was playing center field. And we saw his first 2 hits that night. He got that first hit off of Sid Manji. But most of my great memories of Tony Gwynn are off the field, just hanging out with him and talking with him, whether it be in the dugout or the clubhouse or running into him during the off season at, a Poway sporting event or, just, as a guy. And that's what Tony was. Tony was a guy, man. He just loved sports. And him and I hit it off from the very start and had a great relationship. And, 65 years of age. And I saw Alicia a few weeks ago. I don't know if you saw the show Sully and Little Tommy. They're on KUSI, and I was kind of a surprise guest for Randy Jones and Alicia. Hadn't seen Alicia in about a year or so, and she looks fantastic, doing well. And I surprised them, and I told some Tony Gwynn stories on that show with Little Tommy and Sully, and I appreciate them having me on. And we're going to get Randy on it one of these days, too, and talk some baseball. Randy's got a great perspective and goes to all the Padre games. But, Rich, thanks for bringing that up. Tony Gwynn, never be another guy like him. I got to tell you that. Thing I got to tell you about Tony, whenever I would go to spring training, he always wanted to know. He wanted to know ahead of time, hey, what week you going to spring training? And he always made it a point to come on the show. He was always my first leadoff guest on Friday night. And most of the years I was in spring training, I broadcast from the lobby of the Hampton Hotel, right across the street from the complex. And Tony would be my leadoff hitter. Man, we had some great guys. The late Mike Darr came over, Gary Matthews Jr., Sean Burroughs, who passed away a little over a year ago. I was a big Sean Burroughs fan. He was a great kid. Met him when he was a 12-year-old. I did a thing for Nike up in Costa Mesa at that old Nike town. That's when I first met Sean. But Tony always makes sure Coach Kentera got his show off to a good start in spring training by being my leadoff hitter. And Rich, thank you very much for bringing that up today. Very much appreciate that. All right, pitching matchups for this weekend. And we'll see where it goes. And remember, the Padres are going to be home, folks. They're going to be home on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday against the Angels. Angels having their struggle. The Angels are playing hard. They're just kind of limited in that pitching department. Pitching matchup tonight at Coors Field, 540. Right-hander Randy Vasquez, 1-3 and a 3.90 ERA, going against the veteran right-hander Antonio Zenzatella, 1-5 and a 5.5 ERA. And I was looking at Vasquez. Vasquez pitched better his last time out, but again, he got to pound the strike zone. I went back and looked. He's walked 24 hitters in 32 and a third innings. You know why he survived that to this point? He's only given up one home run all year. That's pretty amazing. You can't walk 24 in 32 and a third. It's going to get you. And you got that ERA under 4. You walk people at Coors Field, you're going to pay the price. Now, tomorrow, the game will be a half hour earlier at 5:10. It'll be a young right-hander, Stephen Kolek, 1-0. No ERA after that 5 1/3 last weekend against the Pirates. And Kolek, 28 years of age, but he's a young pitcher. He pitched last year out of the bullpen for the Padres and making only his second major league start tomorrow. And he'll go against 24-year-old right-hander Bradley Blaylock, who's 0-1 and an 8.03. And Sunday, you've got right-hander Nick Pivetta, 5-1 and a 2.01, going against Colorado right-hander German Marquez, 0-6 and a 9.90 ERA. That game on Mother's Day. Don't forget Mother's Day, folks. 12-10. Okay, before we get out here, let's take a look at the standings. I want to take a look at the National League West standings. I mentioned the Dodgers got beat on Thursday night. It's a 4-game series over in the desert. They got beat 5-3. They were down 5-0. They tried to rally late, came up short. They'll be back at it again over there at Arizona tonight. Boy, I'll tell you, that's a hitter's paradise over there. They talk about Coors Field. I'd love to hit in that Arizona ballpark. Not only does the ball fly, but that infield is hard as a rock. Hit that ball on the ground, man. It scoots through the infield. Okay, National League West standings. Dodgers right now sitting at 25-13. Padres sitting at 23-13. Colorado, or I should say San Francisco at 24-14. Both the Padres and Giants start today a game back of the Dodgers. Arizona making strides. They're 2 games over 500 at 20-18, 5 games back. And then the Rockies at 6-31, 18.5 games back. So there you have it. Okay, we're going to get out of here. Again, I want to wish all you mothers out there a very, very happy Mother's Day. And you sons and daughters, take care of mom on Sunday. I know we've got a big event planned, got a big weekend in the sports world as well, but we'll be back in on Monday morning at 9 a.m. We'll break down the Colorado series and get ready for my second favorite Major League Baseball team, the Los Angeles Angels. I still like to call them the California Angels, but it's always fun when those two teams hook up. We'll talk more about that on Monday. But again, happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the baseball, and we'll talk to you Monday morning at 9 a.m. And remember, don't forget to subscribe, like, and send in your questions. Talk to you Monday, everyone. Bye-bye.